Welcome to Pure Sadness. Hi there, I'm Roux. Welcome to my video where I talk about whatever I want. Inspired by D'Angelo I am, yes. And this is a follow-up to my previous video on purity culture. Today I want to look over your comments, your opinions on the issue, and address some interesting issues about purity culture that has occurred to me after the first video. The issues I want to talk about are the non-issues. I feel like purity culture makes issues when there are none. Like, if you like to watch adult entertainment at all, you have a porn addiction. It's been statistically shown that porn addiction is really rare. Like, for a true porn addict, that's really rare. Like, for people to say that they have a porn addiction when it's more likely that they just feel ashamed by looking at it at all. I feel like purity culture is basically saying someone has a problem when they don't. You can also see how if you've been told your whole life that it's dirty and disgusting and it's basically your natural urges, but you're being told it's dirty and disgusting, porn sites are probably really morbidly curiosity inspiring. It's kind of like a train wreck, it's hard to look away. But I don't think you have a porn addiction just because of it. There are so many Christian channels who make content to tell you how to live your life. Like Paul and Morgan, Girl Defined, Classically Abby, The Transformed Wife, bunch of others. They keep saying that if you like adult entertainment at all, you're a sinner and you have problems and you need to be saved. It's like they're comparing it to being an alcoholic or something. It's just trivializing actual addiction and also telling people that their normal, non-addictive behavior is an addiction, and no wonder they feel full of shame then. Another thing that is really problematic with purity culture is this notion that women are less sexual than men. To the point where women are told that when you're married, your husband has needs, and you're not allowed to say no. There was a really disturbing article that I read, written by the DUGGARs, where they said, oh, these are the things that we've learned from being married for 37 years, or however long it was. They literally write, enjoy the privilege of physical intimacy. God grants spouses full access to each other's bodies for sexual gratification. Quote, let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one another. And instead of interpreting that as, oh, you should have sex when both of you consent, they take that as, resistance or indifference to your husband's needs of physical intimacy is an unspoken crushing of his spirit. I'm sorry, it would crush your spirit if your wife wasn't in the mood, but it would make your spirit all happy and feeling fabulous if your wife just laid there and took it. You feel better if she just has sex with you when she doesn't want to. What the fuck is wrong with you? But this is a thing. This is a thing that purity culture promotes, that women no sex before marriage, but as soon as you get married, you're basically a sex doll. And your husband can do with you as he pleases. And it's hella disturbing. And you can't say no because then you're crushing his spirit. No wonder when we see these interviews with these wives who have sister wives who come from the purity culture aspect of it, and that's why they have polygamy going on, they say things like, oh, it's just better to have a sister wife to share the duties of the man's needs. And it's like, what? Yes, it's just so much, it's so hard. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with all of it. And it's like, you're literally condoning spousal rape. And you're making it so that the woman won't like it at all. I mean, you've already set her up for that because you've told her that her sexuality is non-existent and she's just supposed to be there and do whatever her husband pleases. That makes me so angry. Whenever I see interviews like that, I'm like, oh my god, I feel so bad for this woman. She has never ever had an orgasm in her life. I am so sure of it. It's literally a chore to her, like cleaning. It's sad. And I think any man who would want that kind of relationship with his wife is not screwed on right. Know what I mean? No. If if you would want to have a sexual intimacy with someone who doesn't want it back and you would still get off on that, there is something underlyingly disturbing with you. Like you should be appalled and not turned on at all if your partner genuinely doesn't want to. Ugh. But also purity culture says that rape doesn't exist if you're married, so the good old days of women being slaves. That's what they want. That's what they promote. Another thing, too, that I've noticed is, have you seen that movie with Eddie Murphy where it's like really old movie, but where he's like this African prince and he goes to America because he wants to find a woman that is interesting because the woman that they had picked out for the prince has been raised to just do whatever he wants and she has no personality? That's basically also what purity culture wants. They keep saying things like, oh, a wife's duty is to just go along with and support and serve her husband and whatever his goal is in life. It's like you don't even want to be married to a person. Like, if you genuinely want your wife to not have her own goals and aspirations and hobbies and interests, and you just want her to be this subservient sex doll slave, you might as well be married to an actual sex doll then. Or like a robot that cleans. Like, get yourself like a robotic vacuum and a sex doll and you're set. That's basically what you want. And whenever women resist this, they're told that they're ungodly wives and that they're difficult and so emotional. Like, how dare you at all have feelings? How dare you be a person? Rude of you. Stop it immediately. It's just really disturbing. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But let's look at your comments on the previous video on what you think of purity culture. Jess M says, hi Jess by the way, what about all us 90s kids who refuse to get divorced because of the impure stigma? I bet that's at least somewhat connected to the purity culture stuff. I'm miserable, but I'll never find anything better. Nobody would want a divorced woman with kids. I just have to wait for my spouse to die, I guess. Yeah, that's true. I feel like the reaction to women's rights and, oh, you get to be divorced now, like if you don't want to be with someone who's not right for you, and women can choose not to be with men, and also men too, is like, no. If you want to get divorced, you just haven't worked on it enough, and you're a failure. Let's get back to the good old days. That's definitely part of your purity culture. You're so right, Jess. So right. Issa G says, my sister had one of those purity pledges. Guess who ended up married with a baby at 17? While I was never really raised with that crap, big age difference, different household, so I had a more promiscuous time and ended up not having kids until 5 years into my marriage. I feel like that's a glaring example of what happens when A, you teach your kids that sex is until marriage, and also you don't teach your kids to have a healthy, normal sex life without marriage, and you don't really give them the information they need to make good choices. So I feel bad for your sister. She probably didn't get the sex ed she needed, and then, nature happened. Know what I mean? And then you waited until 5 years into your marriage because you actually had the information to make good choices. Yeah. Boiler One says, let's not beat around the bush anymore. This isn't about religion. It's about controlling women. If you're a girl, you have to do all the work to appease their god. If you're a boy, you're going to heaven since it's always the woman's fault. Also, we aren't going to teach you anything important about sex, so you can't get out of it. That is a majorly good point. I feel like a lot of communities that want to make people stay or control people's behavior do benefit from the fact that if they don't give their members any information about sex and then those people get pregnant, you're kind of stuck. You're stuck, you can't go anywhere because you have a kid with another person from that community and you can't leave. And then it's just a cycle that repeats itself. So true. It's funny, someone commented, Rapier83 commented, ooh, I thought this was about those people that are uber clean. No, those are germaphobes. I am one of those though, so if you want me to make a video about that, tell you all about my anxiety and germophobia, do comment below. Cyanide Smile says, purity culture didn't just stick to religious groups, unfortunately. Here in America, purity seeped its way into public schools, but because of separation of church and state, they came up with secular reasons to not have sex until marriage, like, well, studies show there's emotional hurt if you sleep with someone and you break up. But don't mention it's part of the cultural reinforcement and shame cycles purity culture perpetuates.
If you sleep with them, you won't have such a strong connection with the next person. It's like duct tape being stuck on an arm and being pulled off many times. You lose your glue.
Because you taught us someone who had a previous partner was less worthy of those who are pure.
You won't get an STD or an unplanned pregnancy if you don't have sex.
Then why not teach about safe sex practices instead of telling us we're impure trash and shaming us for having human urges? Plus, they even teach if you dress a certain way, but say you don't want to have sex,
that's confusing for the boys. And you're sending mixed messages, so don't be surprised if they push boundaries even if you tell them to stop.
Oh my god. So it doesn't matter what we say or how many times we say it, it's always our fault? Victim blaming. I'm a victim of abuse and rape, and hearing these things even years after my assaults just made it harder for me to speak out about it and get the help I needed. This is so true. This is so true. It makes me so angry, the duct tape thing, where they're like, oh, it's gonna make you less able to connect with another person. I feel like that's gonna make you maybe settle for someone who isn't right for you, but you're so afraid of like, oh no, I can't break up with them or divorced because no, then I'll be like a chewed piece of gum or I won't be able to attach to others. It's bizarre. Like, unless you're literally a piece of tape, that's not how it works. But they do love those analogies. Shameful. Coma Juice says, who's surprised that 90% of societal issues are caused by religion? Homophobia, sexism, racism often as well. I'm not surprised. I feel like all of history has just been one big competition to try to one-up each other, like, my God is better than your God. If we could just leave that alone, we would be so much more happier. Daphne Austin says, I grew up in purity culture and it's utter BS and mentally damaging. Unfortunately, really true. I feel like a lot of people have been damaged by this toxic view on humans when it's an unattainable, like, oh, you have to be basically a non-human, you have to be a robot to be perfect, and it's just ridiculous. Sharon Duveau says, I relate to this way too much. I remember having a panic attack when I was 16 because I was afraid that my dad's super religious wife and other adults nearby would force me to marry a man and have kids. I'm gay, by the way, and have never wanted kids. I started sobbing and felt like I was running out of breath, and I didn't know why. It's so fucked up to do that to a child. Hope you got out of that situation. That's not okay. I felt the same way when I was talking to my grandma when I was little, and she told me that I would want to have human children even if I didn't want it now, and everyone changes their minds, and I didn't really get a say in the matter because I might meet someone who wants kids and I didn't get a say. It made me feel so sad and trapped, and also like, oh, life has a deadline to which my unhappiness begins. It's really like, that's not how it should be. Like, people should be doing those things because they want to, not to feel like it's like, oh yes, and then I can see the deadline of doom starting soon. It's not okay. Cheryl Bailey says, used to enjoy you, you've become too woke for me, unsubscribing. Thank you? I'm too woke? Is that a compliment? Thank you so much for everyone who commented. Awesome. Do comment below, what do you think about this? I think I want to make another follow-up video about this because I have had people write into me. Thank you so much, by the way. Awesome. And I want to talk about this some more and maybe explore like specific channels that promote this kind of stuff and talk about that. So do comment below, what kind of channels should I be checking out that are promoting this really toxic culture? Do comment below, and also your thoughts on what we've talked about today. Thank you so much for stopping by, you're awesome. If you want to help me make this my full-time career, I love making videos, do come back, watch my videos, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Also, thank you so much to my wonderful patrons. If anyone wants to be my patron, because a lot of this stuff is definitely going to be demonetized because we're actually talking about things that are real, and that's too much for censorship culture to deal with, do check out the link below. I post every Friday, Reddit readings every weekday, real talk, and on Wednesday soon, true crime. Okay, love you, bye.